The giant white ship floated through space like a bright star against the darkness. The UHMS Nightingale was the largest hospital ship humans had ever built. It was 3 kilometers long and covered in red crosses that could be seen from very far away. Captain Doctor stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the big windows. Had been a doctor for 20 years before becoming a ship captain. She still wore her white coat over her uniform. Her hands had saved thousands of lives, and now she commanded a ship that saved even more. The Nightingale had 3,000 people working on it. All of them were doctors, nurses, and medical helpers. The ship was in the 442 star system. This was where humans and the alien race called were fighting. The war had been going on for 2 years now. Both sides were losing many people. The Nightingale came here to help anyone who was hurt, no matter what species they were. Walked through the medical halls of her ship. The walls were painted soft blue and green colors to help patients feel calm. In the first ward, she saw human colonists who had been hurt in the fighting. Some had lost arms or legs. Others had burns from energy weapons. The medical team worked day and night to help them. In the next ward, something special was happening. Human doctors were treating wounded. These were the same aliens that human soldiers were fighting against. But on the Nightingale, there were no enemies. There were only patients who needed help. They looked like giant insects with 6 arms and 4 eyes. Their blood was purple instead of red. Dr. Sarah was working on a young soldier who had been shot in the chest. She moved carefully around his extra arms as she cleaned his wound. "How is he doing?" asked. Doctor looked up from her work. "He will live." The shot missed his main heart, but it hit one of his smaller hearts. We had to learn anatomy very quickly when this war started. Nodded. When the fighting began, many people thought the Nightingale should only help humans, but refused. She believed that doctors should help everyone, no matter what they looked like or where they came from. This belief had saved over 50,000 lives in the past year. The ship's communication officer, Lieutenant Torres, called to the bridge. "Captain, we have received a message from the human colony on 442B. They have wounded people who need help." Hurried back to the bridge. The planet 442B appeared on the main screen. It was a brown and orange world with 3 small moons. Human settlers had been trying to build cities there when the war started. Now those cities were damaged and many people were hurt. "Set course for the planet," ordered. "Tell them we are coming to help." The Nightingale moved toward the planet. As it flew, it sent out radio signals on many different frequencies. The signals were in 17 different languages, including human languages and alien ones. Every signal said the same thing. "This is the hospital ship UHMS Nightingale. We are a medical vessel under the protection of the Galactic Geneva Conventions. We carry wounded from all species. We request safe passage." The ship had done this hundreds of times before. Even enemy ships usually let hospital ships pass without trouble. It was one of the oldest rules of war. You do not attack doctors or medical ships. As they got closer to the planet, received a report from Dr. Martinez in the pediatric ward. This was where they treated children. "Captain, we have 23 human children and 7 younglings recovering from injuries. Some of them were hurt when a bomb exploded near a school." Felt sad hearing this. War was bad enough when only soldiers got hurt, but when children suffered, it made her angry. She had seen too many small bodies brought to her ship. Some were so badly hurt that even her best doctors could not save them. "Keep me updated on their condition," she told Dr. Martinez. The Nightingale reached orbit around 442B, could see the damaged human cities below. Smoke was still rising from some buildings. Shuttle flights began immediately. The ship's medical shuttles flew down to the planet to pick up wounded people. Watched from the bridge as the shuttles returned. Each one carried people who needed help. Some could walk with assistance. Others had to be carried on stretchers. The medical teams worked without stopping. They treated humans and even some members of other alien species who had been caught in the fighting. Doctor came to the bridge with a report. He was the head of surgery. "Captain, we have performed 47 operations today. We saved 39 lives. 8 patients were too badly hurt when they arrived." Felt both happy and sad. Happy that 39 people would live. Sad that 8 families would cry tonight. This was the reality of working on a hospital ship in a war zone. Lieutenant Torres suddenly looked worried at his communication station. "Captain, I am picking up 3 ships approaching us. They appear to be interceptors." Was not worried at first. Enemy ships had approached the Nightingale before. They usually just wanted to check that it really was a medical ship and not a war ship pretending to be one. She had dealt with this many times. "Open a channel to them," she ordered. The main screen changed to show 3 dark gray ships flying toward them. The interceptors were small but fast. They had powerful weapons for their size. Could see their energy cannons pointing toward her ship. "This is Captain Doctor of the hospital ship UHMS Nightingale," she said into the microphone. "We are operating under medical neutrality. We have wounded aboard receiving treatment. We request safe passage." For a long moment there was no answer. Started to feel worried. The 3 enemy ships kept flying closer. They were now close enough that their weapons could easily hit the Nightingale. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. It was translated by the computer from the clicking and buzzing sounds that used to talk. The voice sounded cold and angry. "Human vessel, this is Commander of the Defense Force. No human ship leaves this system." Felt her heart start beating faster. This was not how these meetings usually went. Enemy commanders had always respected the medical ship before. "Commander, we are a hospital ship," she said again. "We are protected under galactic law. We have your own people aboard receiving medical care." There was another long silence. Looked around the bridge. Her officers were starting to look scared. Lieutenant Torres was checking the ship's defensive systems, but the Nightingale only had basic shields. It was not built for fighting. The enemy commander's voice came back, even colder than before. "There are no aboard your ship. There are only traitors who accepted help from humans. Prepare to be destroyed." Stared at the screen in shock. In all her years running medical ships, no one had ever threatened to attack her hospital. Even in the worst battles, both sides always respected medical vessels. It was one of the most important rules in the galaxy. "Commander, please listen to me," said, trying to keep her voice calm. "We have 42 wounded aboard right now. Doctor just saved one of your soldiers an hour ago. We are here to help your people, not hurt them." The 3 enemy ships moved closer. Could see their weapons charging up with blue energy. Her hands started shaking. She had faced many dangerous situations, but this was different. This felt wrong in a way that made her sick to her stomach. "All medical staff, this is the captain," she announced over the ship's speakers. "We may have a problem with hostile ships. Please secure all patients and prepare for possible emergency actions. But we will not abandon our medical mission." Dr. Sarah was still working on the young soldier when she heard the announcement. The alien looked up at her with his 4 eyes. Even though they were different species, she could see fear in his face. "Doctor, what is happening?" he asked in broken human language. "Do not worry," Sarah said, though she was worried herself. "We will take care of you." On the bridge, Lieutenant Torres was watching his instruments with growing fear. "Captain, they are targeting our engines and communication systems." Made a quick decision. She reached for the emergency medical broadcast button. This would send out a signal that told everyone in the area that they were a medical ship under attack. It was protected by galactic law, just like attacking the ship itself was against the law. "This is UHMS Nightingale broadcasting emergency medical distress signal. We are a hospital ship under threat of attack. We have 3,000 medical personnel aboard and over 1,000 patients of multiple species. Any attack on this vessel would violate the Galactic Geneva Conventions. The response came immediately. Commander's voice was filled with hatred. Your conventions mean nothing. Humans who help our enemies will die with them. The first blast hit the Nightingale's engine room. The whole ship shook like it was in an earthquake, was thrown against her captain's chair. Red warning lights started flashing everywhere. The lights on the bridge flickered and went dim. Engine room is not responding, Torres shouted. Main engines are offline, we cannot move. Felt sick. Without engines, they could not escape. They were floating in space like a giant target. She grabbed the emergency communications microphone. All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack. This is not a drill. All medical personnel are to remain at their stations and continue treating patients. Security teams activate emergency protocols. The second wave of attacks was even worse. This time, the enemy ships aimed directly at the medical sections of the Nightingale, watched in horror as the explosions tore through the ship's hull. These were not warning shots. They were trying to kill everyone aboard. Doctor was in operating room 7 when the blast hit. He was in the middle of surgery on a human child who had lost her leg in a bombing. The explosion threw him to the floor, but he got up quickly. Nurse Williams, check the patient, he shouted over the alarms. Make sure she is still stable. The little girl was still unconscious from the surgery drugs. The machines that monitored her heart were still working. Nurse Williams checked the surgical site. She looks okay, doctor, but the ceiling is cracking. Doctor looked up. There was a long crack running across the ceiling of the operating room. He could see sparks from broken electrical wires. But the little girl still needed surgery, or she would die. We keep working, he said. Hand me the bone saw. Throughout the ship, similar scenes were happening. Doctors and nurses continued treating patients even as explosions rocked their medical wards. In the children's section, Dr. Martinez was trying to keep the young patients calm while moving them away from damaged areas. It is okay, she told a scared human boy. We are going to move you to a safer room. A young was crying in the bed next to him. The sound was like clicking and whistling. Dr. Martinez did not speak the language very well, but she knew how to comfort scared children. She gently touched the alien child's arm and spoke softly. On the bridge, watched her ship dying around her. The enemy ships were being very careful about their attacks. They were destroying specific systems, life support, communications, medical equipment. They wanted to make sure that everyone aboard would die slowly. Captain, Torres called out. They are jamming all our communications. No one can hear our distress signals anymore. Felt tears on her face. She was watching 3,000 good people die, and there was nothing she could do to save them. These were doctors and nurses who had spent their lives helping others. They did not deserve this. The third attack was the worst. The enemy ships targeted the main medical bay where most of the patients were being treated. Watched the explosions tear through the section where Doctor was still working on the soldier. The blast threw Doctor across the room. When she tried to get up, her leg would not work right. It was broken, but she could see that the young soldier was still alive. A piece of metal had fallen near his bed, but he was not hurt. Doctor crawled across the floor to reach him. Her broken leg sent waves of pain through her body, but she kept moving. The young soldier looked at her with his 4 eyes. Doctor, you are hurt, he said. I am okay, she lied. We need to get you to safety. Other medical staff were doing the same thing all over the ship. Even as they were hurt and dying, they tried to protect their patients. Human doctors threw themselves over alien patients to shield them from explosions. Nurses carried wounded enemies to safety while the ship burned around them. Made one last attempt to contact the attacking ships. Commander, please stop this attack. You are killing your own people. We have 42 aboard who will die if you destroy this ship. The answer came back quickly. They chose to accept help from humans. They are no longer our people. Realized that nothing she said would stop this. The commander had decided that helping the enemy was the same as being the enemy. In his mind, any who let humans save their life was a traitor who deserved to die. The ship's main reactor started making dangerous sounds. Chief engineer called the bridge. "Captain, the reactor is becoming unstable. If they hit us again, we are going to have a core breach." Knew what that meant. If the reactor exploded, it would destroy everything within 50 kilometers. Any nearby ships or rescue vessels would be destroyed too. She had one last choice to make. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced. "Prepare for reactor emergency. All medical staff continue with patients until the last possible moment." She looked around her bridge at the officers who had served with her for 3 years. They were all scared, but they were staying at their posts. These people could have worked on safe planets or space stations. Instead, they chose to fly into war zones to save lives. "It has been an honor serving with all of you," said quietly. The final attack hit the reactor directly. Had just enough time to send out one last emergency signal before the communication systems died completely. "This is UHMS Nightingale. We are under attack. Hospital ship. Repeat, they are firing on a hospital ship. Over 3,000 souls aboard." The ship started breaking apart. Could hear the hull cracking and the sound of air being sucked into space. Emergency systems were trying to seal the breaches, but there were too many holes. Doctor finished his surgery on the little girl even as the operating room filled with smoke. He carried her to the emergency section and put her in an escape pod with other children. Nurse Williams helped him seal the pod. "Take care of them," Doctor said to the escape pod's automatic pilot system. Throughout the ship, similar small heroic acts were happening. People were putting others into escape pods and staying behind themselves. Most of the pods were damaged and would not work, but a few might make it. Made her way to the last working escape pod. Inside, she found 17 survivors, including the young soldier that Doctor had been treating. Doctor was there too, her leg wrapped in bandages. "Captain, get in," Doctor said. "This pod can hold one more person." Looked back at her ship. She could see fires burning in many sections. People were still working to save patients in the parts that were not destroyed yet. She was the captain. Her job was to stay with her ship. But someone needed to tell Earth what happened here. Someone needed to make sure the galaxy knew that they had attacked a medical ship and killed 3,000 innocent people. Got into the escape pod. As it launched, she looked back at the Nightingale one last time. The great white ship was breaking apart in the darkness. 3,000 good people were dying because they had tried to help others. In the escape pod's black box recorder, everything was saved. The communications with the attacking ships, the video of medical staff protecting patients, the proof of what happened here. Held the young's hand as their pod flew away from the dying ship. Even after everything that happened, she was still a doctor, and doctors help everyone, no matter what. The small escape pod floated through space for 67 hours before the human patrol ship UHS Defender found it. Captain was on routine patrol when his communications officer picked up the pod's emergency signal. "Captain, we have a distress beacon. It is very weak," said Lieutenant Hayes. Captain looked at his screen. There was nothing else around them for light years. "Bring it aboard immediately." When the pod opened, 17 people came out. Most of them were badly hurt. Captain was shocked to see that one of them was an alien. The soldier looked around with his 4 eyes, clearly scared to be on a human military ship. Doctor was barely conscious. Her white medical coat was torn and covered in blood. She grabbed Captain's arm with a shaking hand. "The black box," she whispered. "You have to get the black box to Earth Command immediately." Captain did not understand what she meant at first, but Doctor, despite her broken leg, explained everything. She told him about the hospital ship, the attack, and the 3,000 people who died. Captain felt sick listening to her story. The escape pod's black box contained everything: video recordings of the attack, audio of the conversations with Commander, pictures of human medical staff protecting alien patients while energy blasts tore through the ship. Captain immediately sent the data through military channels to Earth. The message was marked with the highest priority code. Within 6 hours, it reached Admiral Sarah at Earth Defense Command. Admiral had been in the military for 35 years. She had seen many terrible things during the war with the... She thought nothing could shock her anymore. She was wrong. She sat in her office late at night, watching the video from the Nightingale security cameras. She saw doctors and nurses working to save patients even as explosions destroyed their ship. She saw a doctor carrying a human child to safety while energy weapons fired all around him. But the worst part was watching Doctor crawl across the floor with a broken leg to protect the young soldier. Even as her own people were dying, she risked her life to save an enemy who needed help. Admiral had to stop the video several times. Her hands were shaking with anger. In 35 years of military service, she had never seen anything so evil. They had not just attacked a ship. They had attacked the very idea that some things should be protected, even in war. She called an emergency meeting with the Earth Defense Council. Within 2 hours, 12 of the most important people in human military and government were sitting around a table in a secure room deep under Geneva. "You have all seen the video," Admiral said. "They have attacked a medical ship and killed 3,000 of our people. They murdered doctors and nurses who were trying to help their own wounded soldiers." General Harrison, the head of Earth's army, spoke first. "This is a clear violation of every law of war. We have to respond." "The question is how," said President Martinez. She looked tired. The war had been going on for 2 years and everyone was hopping for peace soon. Now that hope was gone. Admiral stood up. "With respect, Madam President, there is no question about how to respond. We mobilize everything. Every ship, every factory, every person. This cannot be allowed to stand." The Secretary of Defense, James Park, looked worried. "Admiral, we have been fighting for 2 years already. Our people are tired. Are we sure we want to make this war bigger?" Admiral turned to look at him. Her eyes were cold. "Secretary Park, they did not just kill 3,000 people. They killed 3,000 people whose job was to save lives. They killed people who were treating their own wounded soldiers. If we do not respond to this, what message does that send? That humans can be attacked anywhere, anytime, even when we are trying to help." She walked to the big screen and played a video clip. It showed Dr. Sarah protecting the young with her own body as energy blasts hit all around them. "Look at this and tell me we should not respond," Admiral said. Everyone in the room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, President Martinez spoke. "What do you need?" "Everything," Admiral said. "Total mobilization. Every human colony, every space station, every factory. We stop all non-essential activities and focus on one thing, showing the galaxy that attacking medical personnel will have consequences." President Martinez signed the mobilization order that night. Within hours, messages went out to every human settlement in known space. The message was simple: all leave canceled, all non-essential construction stopped, report to mobilization stations immediately. The reaction was fast and surprising. Admiral had expected some resistance. Humans had been fighting for 2 years and many people were tired of war. But when they saw the video from the Nightingale, everything changed. On the planet New Tokyo, factory workers who made cars immediately started making weapons instead. The managers did not even need to ask them. They just started changing their production lines on their own. On Mars, the giant shipyards that built cargo vessels began working on military ships. Construction crews worked day and night without being ordered to. They had all seen Doctor carrying the injured child, and they wanted to do something about it. Even more surprising was what happened in space. Civilian ship captains started calling Earth Command to volunteer their vessels for military service. Cargo haulers wanted weapons installed. Passenger ships offered to carry troops. Even luxury cruise ships asked to be converted for the war effort. Captain Lisa commanded a mining ship called the Lucky Strike. She had been hauling asteroid ore for 15 years and had never been in the military. But when she saw the video of the hospital ship attack, she called Earth Command immediately. "This is Captain of the Lucky Strike. We want to join the military effort." The Earth Command operator was confused. "Captain, we appreciate your support, but mining ships are not really suitable for combat." Captain laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Young man, do you know what mining ships do? We move asteroids around. Do you know what an asteroid becomes if you throw it at a planet fast enough? A weapon." All over human space, similar conversations were happening. Scientists working on terraforming projects realized their equipment could be used to destroy planets instead of building them. Computer programmers who made entertainment software started writing military viruses. Even children's toy companies began making small surveillance drones. The aliens in the galaxy watched this transformation with growing fear. They had seen human industry before, but always focused on peaceful activities. Now they were seeing what happened when humans focused everything on war. The ambassador came to Earth to meet with President Martinez. They were allies of humanity, but they were worried about what they were seeing. "Madam President," Ambassador said, "we are concerned about your mobilization. You are converting your entire civilization into a military machine. This seems extreme." President Martinez showed him the video from the Nightingale. Ambassador watched in silence as human medical staff died protecting alien patients. His species had blue skin and 3 arms, but the expression on his face was very human shock and disgust. "I understand your anger," he said finally. "But this level of mobilization could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy." "That is exactly what we want," President Martinez replied. "We want every species to understand that attacking medical personnel will bring consequences they cannot imagine." Within 1 week, human industrial output had doubled. Within 2 weeks, it had tripled. Weapons and ships were being produced faster than ever before in human history. But this was not the most frightening part. The most frightening part was that humans were angry in a way the galaxy had never seen before. They were not angry like warriors who wanted to win battles. They were angry like people whose most basic beliefs had been attacked. Doctor was recovering in a hospital on Earth. Her injuries were healing, but she could not stop thinking about her crew. 3,000 good people were dead because they tried to help others. She watched the news reports about the mobilization, and she felt both proud and sad. A reporter came to interview her. "Doctor, do you think Earth's response is too extreme? Some people are saying we are overreacting." Looked at the reporter with tired eyes. "I watched doctors die while they were performing surgery. I saw nurses carry wounded enemies to safety while the ship burned around them. 3,000 people who spent their lives saving others were murdered while they worked. You tell me, how should we react to that?" The reporter had no answer. Admiral was working 20-hour days to coordinate the mobilization. She had ships being built in hundreds of locations. New weapons were being designed and tested. Computer viruses were being written to attack enemy systems, but she was not satisfied yet. "We need more," she told her staff. "The need to understand that they made the worst mistake in their species' history." Her aide, Colonel Smith, looked worried. "Admiral, at this rate of production, we will have the largest military force in galactic history within a month." Admiral smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Good. I want them to see us coming from light years away. I want them to have time to think about what they did before we arrive." On the other side of the galaxy, the leadership was starting to understand that something was wrong. Their intelligence reports showed human ships appearing in places they had never been before. Human factories were producing weapons at impossible rates. Even human civilians were joining the military effort. Commander, who had ordered the attack on the Nightingale, was called to meet with the High Command. He was proud of what he had done. He believed he had struck a blow against human expansion. "Commander," said High Admiral, "our intelligence reports suggest that the humans are mobilizing their entire civilization for war. This seems to be related to your attack on their medical ship." Commander made a clicking sound that was the equivalent of laughter. "Let them come. We destroyed one of their ships easily. What difference will a few more make?" High Admiral looked at the reports from their spies in human space. The numbers did not make sense. No civilization could increase military production this fast, unless they were converting their entire society into a war machine. "Commander," he said quietly, "I think you may have made a very serious mistake." Admiral stood in the command center on Luna Base, looking at a massive holographic display of the galaxy. Red dots showed military positions. Blue dots showed human forces. 3 weeks ago, there had been far more red dots than blue ones. Now the screen was turning blue so fast that the computers could barely keep up. "Admiral, the first wave is ready to begin," reported Captain Jackson, her chief of operations. Admiral nodded. The first wave would not involve traditional military attacks. Humans had learned many things during their expansion across the galaxy. One of those things was how to break computer systems. "Begin cyber operations," she ordered. Across human space, thousands of computer experts who had been working for civilian companies were now focused on a single task. They had been given access to the most powerful quantum computers humans had ever built. Their target was every computer system they could find. Dr. Lisa Park had been designing video games for children just a month ago. Now she was sitting in a secure facility under the city of New Singapore, writing code that would shut down power plants. She was very good at understanding how complex systems worked, whether they were games or power grids. "Target acquired," she said into her headset. "I have access to the main power network on Zephyr Prime." Her supervisor, Colonel, came to look at her screen. "What can you do with it?" Dr. Park smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I can turn off the lights for their all of them, at the same time." Similar scenes were happening in hundreds of locations. Human hackers were breaking into military computers, civilian systems, and even personal devices. They were not just breaking them, they were taking control of them. The attacks began at exactly 1400 Earth Standard Time. Across 12 star systems, lights went out. Communication networks failed. Military computers started showing human messages instead of data. On Zephyr Prime, High Admiral was in an important meeting when every screen in the building started showing the same image. It was a picture of the UHMS Nightingale before it was destroyed. Under the picture were words in the language. "You fired on a hospital ship. This was a mistake." The Admiral tried to call his technical staff, but the phones were not working. He tried to use his personal communicator, but it only played audio from the Nightingale's final distress call over and over again. Across space, the same thing was happening. Every computer, every communication device, every electronic system was either shut down or showing messages about the destroyed hospital ship. The humans had turned their entire technology infrastructure into a memorial for the dead medical workers. But the cyber attack was just the beginning. Admiral watched the reports come in from the first wave. Cyber operations successful across all target systems. Command and control is severely damaged. "Excellent," Admiral said. "Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was something the galaxy had never seen before. For the past month, Human mining ships had been moving asteroids and positioning them in specific locations. To anyone watching, it looked like normal mining operations. It was not. Captain was commanding the Lucky Strike near a large asteroid field. She had spent weeks moving rocks around, and now they were all in perfect position. Each asteroid had small rocket engines attached to it. The engines were controlled by quantum communication systems that could not be jammed. "This is Lucky Strike to all mining vessels," Captain announced. "Time to show these aliens what happens when you attack medical ships. Begin asteroid bombardment." Hundreds of asteroids started moving at the same time. They were aimed at military bases across 3 star systems. But these were not random attacks. The humans had calculated everything perfectly. Each asteroid would hit exactly where it would do the most damage to military targets while avoiding civilian areas. The first asteroids hit military bases 47 minutes later. Each rock was moving at about 30 kilometers per second when it struck. The explosions could be seen from orbit. Entire military installations were destroyed in seconds. But the most frightening part was that the asteroids seemed to come from nowhere. They could not see where they were launched from because the human mining ships were light years away. They could not shoot down the asteroids because they were just rocks. They did not show up well on sensors until it was too late. High Admiral stood in his underground command center, watching reports of destroyed military bases come in. His staff was running around trying to understand how humans were throwing rocks at them from across the galaxy. "Sir, we have lost 17 major installations in the past hour," reported his aide. "How are they doing this?" the Admiral demanded. "We do not know, sir. The projectiles appear to be simple asteroids, but they are hitting with impossible precision. It is like they have turned space rocks into guided missiles." The Admiral felt a cold fear growing in his chest. If humans could throw asteroids with this kind of accuracy, nowhere in space was safe. But Admiral was not finished yet. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered. Phase 3 was the Ghost Fleet. For months, human scientists had been secretly building unmanned warships. These ships were controlled by artificial intelligence computers that could think faster than any biological brain. They did not need crew, so they could be made smaller and faster than normal ships. The Ghost Fleet had been hiding in the empty space between star systems. There were over 2,000 ships, but they were so small and quiet that nobody had seen them. They moved like shadows through space, powered by engines that barely gave off any heat or radiation. Commander Sarah Torres had been the captain of a human destroyer before volunteering to control the Ghost Fleet. Now she sat in a command center on Earth, connected to AI ships scattered across hundreds of light years. Through quantum communication, she could control all of them instantly. "Ghost Fleet is in position," she reported to Admiral. "All ships are ready for simultaneous attack." "Execute Ghost Protocol," Admiral ordered. Across space, the Ghost Fleet struck. The unmanned ships appeared out of nowhere, attacked key targets, and disappeared again before the enemy could respond. They moved in perfect coordination, like a single mind controlling thousands of bodies. A patrol fleet was flying near there when 50 ghost ships suddenly appeared around them. The human ships opened fire with precise, devastating attacks. Each shot was calculated by AI computers to cause maximum damage. Within 3 minutes, the entire patrol was destroyed. Then the ghost ships vanished back into the darkness of space. The attacks continued for hours. Ships, bases, and communication stations were destroyed by enemies they could barely see. The Ghost Fleet moved too fast and struck too precisely for conventional defenses to work. But the most terrifying attack came from an unexpected source. The military was focused on fighting human warships and protecting against asteroid attacks. They were not watching their supply lines carefully enough. Human infiltration teams had been placing small devices in cargo shipments for weeks. Dr. James had been a medical researcher before the war. Now he was designing viruses, not biological ones, but computer viruses hidden inside medical supplies. The badly needed medical equipment because of their losses in the war. They were accepting supply shipments from neutral species without checking them carefully. The virus Doctor created was hidden inside the software that controlled medical equipment. When doctors tried to treat their wounded soldiers, the medical machines would work normally for a few hours. Then they would start making tiny mistakes. An injection dose would be slightly wrong. A surgical tool would slip at the wrong moment. A life support system would have a brief power fluctuation. The mistakes were so small that doctors did not notice them at first, but they added up. Patients who should have recovered started dying. Surgery success rates dropped. They began to lose confidence in their own medical technology. "It is perfect," Doctor explained to his supervisor. "They cannot tell if their equipment is broken, sabotaged, or working correctly. Every time they try to save someone, they have to wonder if their machines will kill their patient instead." Admiral watched the reports of casualties mounting. Their military was being destroyed by asteroids and ghost ships. Their technology was compromised by cyber attacks. Their medical systems were failing when they needed them most. But she wanted to send one more message. The luxury cruise ship Golden Star had been converted into an assault carrier in just 2 weeks. It still looked like a civilian vessel from the outside, but inside it carried 300 human marines and enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Captain had been taking rich tourists on vacation trips around the galaxy before the war. Now he was flying toward them with enough firepower to level cities. "This feels strange," he said to his first officer. 3 weeks ago, my biggest worry was whether the passengers liked the food. Now I am commanding a warship." "Orders are orders," his first officer replied. "They attacked a hospital ship. Now they get to see what happens when civilians join the military." The Golden Star appeared in orbit around Zephyr Prime without warning. The ship looked harmless, just another cruise vessel that had wandered off course. The planetary defense ignored it at first. Then the Golden Star opened up every cargo bay and passenger lounge. Instead of luggage and vacation equipment, thousands of military drones poured out. Each drone was no bigger than a child's toy, but they carried powerful explosives and advanced targeting computers. The drones swarmed across the planet's surface, targeting only military installations and government buildings. They avoided hospitals, schools, and civilian areas with perfect precision. But every military base, every government office, and every strategic installation was hit within hours. High Admiral watched from his bunker as his planet's defenses were destroyed by what looked like a cloud of angry insects. Each tiny drone knew exactly where to go and what to attack. It was like facing an enemy that could see everything and be everywhere at once. "Sir," his aide said quietly, "we are receiving a transmission from the attacking ship." Admiral's face appeared on the screen. She was broadcasting from Earth, but her image was being relayed through the Golden Star's communications system. "This is Admiral Sarah of Earth Defense Command," she said. "You have witnessed the first phase of our response to your attack on the UHMS Nightingale. Your cyber networks are compromised. Your military bases are destroyed. Your defenses are neutralized." High Admiral tried to speak, but Admiral continued. "This is what humans do when you attack our medical personnel. Every ship, every weapon, every person in human space is now focused on one goal, making sure you understand the mistake you have made." The transmission ended. High Admiral looked around his command center. Half the screens were dead. The other half showed reports of destroyed bases and failed systems. His mighty military machine was falling apart. For the first time in his life, the proud admiral was truly afraid. He was beginning to understand that attacking the hospital ship had not been an act of war. It had been a declaration of war against a species that was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Outside his bunker, the human drones continued their precise destruction of military targets. Each explosion was a reminder that somewhere in space, humans were coming for them with weapons they could not even imagine. 3 weeks after the Ghost Fleet attacks began, High Admiral sat in his destroyed command center staring at reports he could not believe. In less than a month, the human military had grown from a small defense force to the largest armed power in galactic history. Worse, they were not fighting like any enemy they had ever faced. Traditional warfare had rules. Armies met on battlefields. Fleets fought in space. Winners and losers were decided in big battles, but the humans were fighting everywhere at once. Their weapons came from directions that should have been impossible. Their attacks were so precise and coordinated that it felt like fighting a single giant organism instead of an army. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have lost contact with our forces in 7-star systems. The human Ghost Fleet has destroyed our patrol fleets in the sector, and our ground forces on Zephyr 7 are reporting that their own weapons are turning against them." The Admiral closed his 4 eyes in exhaustion. The humans had somehow infected military equipment with viruses that made their own weapons unreliable. Soldiers were afraid to use their guns because they might explode. Ship captains were afraid to fire their cannons because the targeting systems might aim at their own vessels instead of the enemy. But the worst part was the silence. For days, human ships had been appearing at the edge of systems, just watching. They did not attack. They did not communicate. They just waited like predators circling wounded prey. A communication signal came through on the emergency channel. It was Admiral again. "Hi Admiral, this is Admiral Sarah of Earth Defense Command. I believe it is time for us to talk." The Admiral activated his transmitter with one of his 6 arms. "Admiral, what do you want from us?" "I want the beings responsible for attacking the UHMS Nightingale," Admiral replied. "I want them to face justice for their war crimes, and I want your people to understand that attacking medical personnel will never be acceptable." High Admiral felt trapped. Commander, who had ordered the attack on the hospital ship, was a war hero to many. Turning him over to humans would be seen as surrender. But continuing this war would mean the destruction of civilization. "What guarantees do we have that you will not destroy our worlds?" the Admiral asked. "The same guarantee you gave to the doctors and nurses aboard the Nightingale," Admiral replied coldly. "None, but I will make you an offer. Surrender the war criminals, accept galactic oversight of your military actions, and we will stop our attacks. Continue to fight, and we will show you what total war really means." High Admiral looked around his command center. His staff was watching him, waiting for his decision. Outside, human ships were gathering in numbers that blocked out the stars. His people were facing complete destruction because one commander had decided that helping the enemy was the same as being the enemy. "I need time to consider your offer," he said. "You have 1 hour," Admiral replied, then cut the transmission. Commander was brought to the command center in chains. Even now, he was proud of what he had done. He believed attacking the hospital ship had been a great victory. "High Admiral, you cannot seriously be considering surrendering to these humans," he said with clicking anger. "We are warriors. We do not bow to inferior species." High Admiral looked at the commander who had started this disaster. "Commander, because of your actions, we are facing the complete destruction of our civilization. The humans have weapons we cannot fight and technology we cannot understand. They have turned our own equipment against us." "So we die fighting," Commander said. "Death before surrender." "Easy words from someone who will not live to see our children starve in the ruins of our worlds," the Admiral replied. 57 minutes later, High Admiral sent a message to Admiral. "We surrender. Commander and his subordinates will be turned over for trial. We accept your terms." The war ended not with a great battle, but with a broken transmission from a defeated enemy. Across the galaxy, other species watched in amazement as the mighty empire collapsed in less than 5 weeks. But Admiral was not interested in destroying the people. She was interested in justice and making sure this never happened again. The war crimes trials were held on Earth. Commander and 12 other officers were charged with attacking a medical vessel and murdering noncombatants. But the humans did something that surprised the entire galaxy. They gave the defendants fair trials with full legal representation. Human lawyers argued for the officers. Human judges made sure they understood their rights. Human doctors made sure they were healthy enough to stand trial. The same species that had destroyed military power in weeks was now protecting the rights of their enemies. Commander could not understand it. "Why are you helping us?" he asked his human lawyer during a break in the trial. Attorney Maria Santos looked at the alien who had ordered the deaths of 3,000 medical workers. "Because that is what civilized species do. We believe in justice, not revenge, even for people who attack hospitals." The trials lasted 6 months. Commander was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. His subordinates received shorter sentences, but they were treated fairly according to galactic law, fed properly, and given medical care when they needed it. The trials sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humans would destroy anyone who attacked medical personnel, but they would not become monsters in the process. More importantly, Admiral used the trials to establish something new, the Nightingale Doctrine. This new galactic law stated that any attack on medical personnel or facilities would be met with immediate intervention by human forces, regardless of the species involved. New hospital ships were built to replace the destroyed Nightingale. Each one was named after a person who had died aboard the original ship. The UHMS Doctor, the UHMS Doctor, the UHMS Nurse Williams, dozens of ships carrying the names of heroes who had died protecting their patients. But these new hospital ships were different. They still carried red crosses and broadcast medical neutrality signals. They still treated patients from any species without asking questions. But they were also escorted by the most advanced warships in human space. Doctor, recovered from her injuries, was given command of the new flagship hospital ship that bore her name. As she stood on the bridge watching her escort fleet, she felt both proud and sad. "Captain," her communications officer said, "we are receiving a distress call from a civilian transport. They have wounded aboard and are requesting medical assistance." "Set course to intercept," ordered. "Signal the escort fleet to maintain formation but stay back. We are a hospital ship first, a military target second." The transport was carrying refugees from a different conflict, a civil war between two minor species that humans had never met before. The wounded included civilians, soldiers, and even some who had been fighting against each other just hours earlier. Doctor walked through the medical bays as her staff treated the new patients. In one bed, a blue-skinned soldier was being treated for burns. In the next bed, a green-scaled reptilian fighter was recovering from surgery. Both species had been killing each other for months, but here they were being healed by the same medical team. A young reptilian soldier looked up at Doctor with frightened eyes. "Are you going to hurt us because we are not human?" Smiled and gently touched the young soldier's arm. "We are doctors. We help everyone who needs it, no matter who they are or what they have done. That is what we do." The young soldier relaxed. "But we heard that humans are dangerous, that you destroy anyone who attacks you." "That is also true," said quietly. "We are healers and we are warriors. We save lives and we protect those who save lives. The choice of which side you meet is up to you." 6 months later, a completely new species made contact with the galaxy for the first time. The crystalline entities were made of living rock and light. They had been watching galactic civilization for centuries, but had never revealed themselves. Their first contact was with Earth. Ambassador Bright Crystal of Distant Stars came to Earth in a ship that looked like a flying mountain made of gems. President Martinez met with the alien leader in a special chamber designed for beings made of mineral and energy. "We have been observing your species for some time," the crystalline ambassador said in a voice like singing crystals. "We have heard conflicting reports about humans. Some species say you are healers who save lives. Others say you are destroyers who eliminate enemies completely. We wish to know which is true before we decide whether to make formal contact with galactic civilization." President Martinez walked to a window that looked out over the memorial garden built for the crew of the Nightingale. 3,000 names were carved in black stone, surrounded by flowers from dozens of worlds. "Both stories are true," she said. "We are healers. Our medical ships save lives across the galaxy without asking what species needs help. We are also destroyers. When someone attacks medical personnel, we respond with overwhelming force." The crystalline ambassador's light grew brighter as he considered this. "How do we know which version of humanity we will encounter?" President Martinez turned back to face the alien leader. "That depends entirely on your actions. Attack our medical ships, hurt our doctors, kill people who are trying to save lives, and you will face the worst we can do. Respect medical neutrality, protect those who heal, support the idea that some things should be sacred even in war, and you will find no better allies in the galaxy." The ambassador was quiet for a long moment, his crystalline form shifting colors as he thought. "And if we simply wish to remain neutral, to avoid galactic conflicts entirely?" "Then you will be left in peace," President Martinez said. "We have no interest in conquering anyone. We only fight when someone crosses a line that should never be crossed." The crystalline ambassador made a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We believe we would like to be friends with your species." The formal treaty between Earth and the crystalline entities was signed 3 weeks later. It was the first of many new alliances, as species across the galaxy realized that humans were both the most dangerous and most trustworthy species they had ever met. Doctor was present at the signing ceremony. She watched as President Martinez and Ambassador Bright Crystal of Distant Stars promised mutual respect and cooperation. After the ceremony, the alien ambassador approached her. "Doctor, we have heard your story. You commanded a ship of healers that was destroyed by those who should have protected it." "Yes," said simply. "And now you command a ship of healers that is protected by the most powerful fleet in the galaxy." "Yes." The crystal ambassador's light pulsed thoughtfully. "Do you ever regret the path that led from one to the other?" Looked out through the window at the space beyond Earth. Somewhere out there, her new hospital ship was saving lives under the protection of human warships. Other species were learning that medical neutrality was not just a suggestion. It was a law enforced by overwhelming military power. 3,000 good people died because they tried to help others, she said. "I regret their deaths, but I do not regret that their sacrifice taught the galaxy an important lesson." "Which is?" Doctor smiled, and for the first time since the attack on the Nightingale, it was a genuinely happy expression. "That healers and warriors are not opposites. Sometimes the best way to protect those who save lives is to be very, very good at ending them." The crystalline ambassador's light brightened in what might have been laughter. "We believe we chose the right species to befriend." 5 years later, no medical ship had been attacked anywhere in the galaxy. The Nightingale Doctrine was respected by every known species. When conflicts arose, all sides made sure to protect medical personnel first and fight their wars second. And in the space around every human hospital ship, quiet warships waited and watched, ready to remind the galaxy that some things remained sacred, even among the stars.